Yo, what's good, Spirit Squad? Today, we're going to talk about all the coverage from Pioneer Pro Tour Philadelphia. Pro Tour Philadelphia is going to be the first Pro Tour that we've had in real life since 2019. So it's been a long time. And unlike, some other tournaments recently, we even have live coverage. So there's plenty of content to follow. And of course, since this Pro Tour is Pioneer, well, that's where you and me come in. We get to be Pioneer experts reviewing a big Pioneer tournament at the highest level. Here, we'll see a metagame breakdown of what people actually brought to the Pro Tour. We've got Rakdos Midrange and Mono Green Devotion, to the surprise of probably no one, as the most represented decks. But then, everything else is going to be exactly as we called it last time. There's going to be Gruul Vehicles, Lotusfield Combo, Mono White Humans, Azorius Control, and next behind that is going to be the real breakout deck of this tournament. Is it Creativity? Spoilers, the eventual winner of the tournament played this deck. A certain someone switched off of Spirits to play Creativity, but it's not terribly difficult to see why. The Creativity deck is really powerful. It gets to have a very linear strategy of just resolving Indomitable Creativity into comboing with Worldspine Worm and Xenagos God of Revels. But you can side grade into a bit of an Is It control plan, which is naturally good against the decks that would otherwise feast on this deck for free. You get cards like Fiery Impulse, Fire Prophecy, and sideboarded things like Rending Valley to beat up on decks like Spirits in mono white aggro that would normally eat a combo deck like this for lunch. But creativity aside, everybody's got their own reasons for choosing the decks they chose. Some people, like Shodi Ahsoka, decided to go with the mainstay of the format, Rakdos Midrange, where you just get to play a good disruptive plan that's generally good against everything else in the format. Some folks like Gavin Thompson Exner, or Alpha Frog for anybody who follows Magic Online presences, is just going to be playing Mono Green Devotion, where you just get to be doing the most powerful thing in the format, and generally that's a good enough plan to get people across the finish line. And then the most surprising deck of the tournament is going to be Selesnya Auras. Now, Selesnya was not the only variant of this deck that actually showed up to the Pro Tour. People played both Orzhov and Abzan. But this one's going to be the most consistent version of this deck throughout the weekend, where you have hexproof threats like Glade Cover Scout, the new Skrelv Defector Might to effectively be Mother of Runes but for auras, and then Light Paws and Saram combo to give you card advantage. So even though you've got cards that are close to uncastable in Kaya's Ghost Form and Hammerhand, you still have an overall very strong, very linear strategy. And not a spoiler, but this strategy worked out pretty well. We did, however, have two people playing Spirits in the Pro Tour. We had one person playing Mono Blue, and Ryan Kelly unfortunately didn't do so hot, but I still don't hate this aggressive list that had 14 1-drops. And Daniel Christoph took Azorius Spirits all the way up to a top 16 finish, which is pretty amazing given that we're talking about a Pro Tour. We've got 4x Skyclave Apparition here, on top of 2 Staggering Insights, which are not traditional main deck choices here, but remember that whole conversation we had about Seachrome Coast potentially enabling Skyclave Apparition in the main, and it looks like Daniel took that one to heart. We're also playing copies of Shore Up here instead of Slip Out the Back in the main, even though there are Slip Out the Backs in the sideboard. And these are all choices that seem to have worked out pretty well. So congrats to Daniel for his finish on the weekend. Part of winning any tournament, but especially a Pro Tour, is going to involve knowing how to beat cards that naturally beat you. Example here is Lotusfield, a deck that primarily resolves around searching for and drawing cards. Beating an on-board Narset Parter Veils is pretty impressive. But on the same token, maybe if our blue-white control opponent here had decided to play the better blue-white deck, then maybe we might have had some better results on this side against Lotusfield. Here we get to see a lovely example of what happens when people start to underestimate the value of companions. In your deck that only has 1-drops and 2-drops, sometimes you just gotta win with your free 5-drop. Speaking of cards that are kind of free to include in your deck sometimes, Boseiju was an absolute all-star this weekend, bringing Benton Madsen out of some truly fucked up scenarios like this one. But don't just take it from me, Boseiju was official card of the day in day one because of blowouts just like that. Speaking of blowouts, poor Gabriel Nassif here was looking at a scenario where he already had the creativity in hand and he got to untap. All he needed to do was not draw Xenagos or Worldspine Worm for his draw step. Obviously he drew a Xenagos, but don't worry, it's cool. Yellow Hat got there anyway because your treasures can still cast your win conditions if need be. Fast forward to the finals and we have Benton Madsen with auras making it all the way to the top of the bracket. But if there was ever a true end boss for your first Pro Tour, Reed Duke is certainly it.
I don't know if you've played on the local New York scene, but people would be like fucking thrilled to see you in like
Whoa!
game story or something.
Easy there,
Hey,
Ben.
okay.
He got the win, took the title, and is now finally a Pro Tour champion. So, congrats to Benton. Bigger congrats to Reed Duke for getting your first ever Pro Tour trophy. Great job, you earned it. And as for everybody else, if we're watching Pro Tour coverage IRL, well, Benton kind of said it perfectly. I'm fucking thrilled. I'm super hyped to see a lot more content come from competitive level Magic. And as for the rest of y'all, what did you think about this weekend's coverage? That's going to be it for today though. If you like what you saw, make sure to click like on the video, let me know, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see y'all on the next one.